quick presentation around Endeavour. It's probably my 10th presentation here, so I'll go quick unless you're bright new. I don't think so. Endeavour Mining produces in West Africa, premier African gold producer. We're producing about 700,000 ounces across mainly 3 countries in West Africa: French West Africa, Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, and Mali. And I'd like first, to talk about why West Africa. And I think what's important is to recognize that West Africa is today the 4th largest gold producing region globally. It's the 3rd global exploration budget. And it's also the first discovery region overall. When you look in particular at the comparison with China, Australia, and Russia, you can see that West Africa is even in front of the US in terms of gross production. But more importantly, over the last 10 years, it's the biggest discovery area. About 79 million ounces have been discovered over the last 10 years, and it's by far the biggest discovery region. In particular, in this region, what you're targeting as a geologist is the Birimian greenstone belt. And the Birimian greenstone belt basically lies mainly between 2 countries, Côte d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso. Historically, Ghana and Mali, you can see a bit of the Birimian greenstone belt, which is the green part, have a bit of Birimian greenstone. And most of the discoveries in the past have been done in those 2 countries, mainly due to political reasons. The instability both in Burkina Faso and in Côte d'Ivoire made that few companies did some exploration in Côte d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso, despite the fact that the biggest Birimian greenstone belt lies in those 2 countries. And this is why, as Endeavour Mining, we are today the largest gold producer in Côte d'Ivoire and the 2nd largest gold producer in Burkina Faso, probably being the biggest one in 2020. And with the biggest exploration portfolio both in Côte d'Ivoire and in Burkina Faso. Those are the countries where the big discoveries in West Africa will come from. And as my dear friend Mark Bristow says, you chase elephant mines in elephant countries, despite the fact there is no more elephant in Côte d'Ivoire, unfortunately. The other interesting part, and that's in particular for French West Africa, is people tend to forget that those countries pertain into the same economic union. So you have the same currency, and you tend to have progressively the same tax environment for all those countries. So it's becoming a very, very stable environment from an economic investment perspective. And when you look at who we are, Endeavour is one of the only multi-asset West African mid-tier producer. We really focus in this region, and we have assets in 3 different countries across West Africa. And in fact, what we've been building over the last few years around our 4 pillars, operational excellence, project development, and also unlocking exploration value, some portfolio and balance sheet management, we've been building progressively a 700,000 ounce annual producer with over 10 years mine life and with all-in sustaining cost below 800, 850. This is where we came from. Back in 2013, we were about 300,000 ounces. We'll be producing this year, in average, around 700,000 ounces, based on our guidance. And we still have a pipeline of projects that should help us to go progressively to 800 and then 1 million ounces of annual production. All focused in one single region. In particular, we built that portfolio over the last 3 years, building our 2 flagships, Houndé in Burkina Faso, which is about 250,000 ounces for the next 10 years, and Ity in Côte d'Ivoire, which is again about 250,000 ounces for the next 10 years at low all-in sustaining cost. Ity was commissioned back in Q1 last year and produced about 200,000 ounces in 2019 at low all-in sustaining cost, as you can see. Another key point is being focused in one single region is to have all the team, and in particular all the technical expertise and the operational team based out of Abidjan, which means that all our mines are between 1 to 2 hours flight from Abidjan, where the core team lives. So very easy, to operate and to be strongly on each of our operations across the region. Safety obviously is first, and we're very proud that over the last 5 years we built 3 mines. The 3 mines were built without any LTI, and in particular over the last close to 800 days we had only 2 LTIs across our all operations. So safety is a key fundamental option of our culture. Another key one is obviously empowering our local forces and growing our local talents. We're proud because back in 2019 we were able to appoint 3 local GMs out of 4 mines, so it's not 50% GMs are West African, but it's 75%. Martino, you forgot to change that one on the slide. 75% of our GMs are from West Africa. Construction, so we have a strong team in terms of construction. Over the last 5 years, we built 3 mines, 3 mines that were built on time and on budget. Agbaou was $150 million construction, Houndé was $300 million construction, and Ity was a $420 million construction. Interestingly, we don't have to do M&A. We keep being opportunistic and looking at options, but we don't have to do M&A as we still have a strong portfolio for growth within our portfolio with 2 upcoming projects, Kalana in Mali, which has 2 million ounce at 2.8 million reserves at about above 2.5 grams per ton. And we're now building up progressively our Fetekro project in Côte d'Ivoire, which is already reaching 1.2 million ounce at 2.3, 2.4 grams per ton. So very interesting upcoming projects for our portfolio. We've been also investing a lot in exploration. One particular item was 3 years ago with Patrick Bouisset, head of exploration. We said that we would discover 10 to 15 million ounces over a 5-year program. A lot of companies are proud to say they're investing in exploration, that they are going to raise equity for exploration, but they don't necessarily tell you how much they're going to find. Here we said over the next 5 years we're going to find 10 to 15 million ounces. And I'm proud to say that after 3 years we've already discovered 6.3 million ounces, and we're tracking well to reach this 10 million ounces plus over 5 years. What's more interesting is that those ounces are mostly above 2 grams per ton, and about 50 to 60% are oxide and the rest in transition. None of them are refractory ore. So very attractive ounces that will generate a lot of cash. Portfolio and balance sheet, interestingly, obviously over the last 3 years building both Houndé and Ity, our 2 flagships, we've been increasing our net debt. But what has been amazing is over the last 2 quarters, Q3 and Q4 was our inflection point, the commissioning of Ity and starting to generate a strong cash. And over 2 quarters, we've been able to reduce the net debt by $129 million. And in particular, if you look at the next slide, which is our net cash flow, so it's not tentative net cash flow like companies can do. It's real net cash flow after everything. You can see that the construction phase for Ity was again a $420 million project. The inflection point that was reached in Q3 and reaching to $42 million in Q3 and $70 million of net cash in Q4. So significant cash flow coming up from Endeavour over the next few quarters. This allowed us, in particular, if we take the Q3 annualized results, to generate a 15% return on capital employed, and this is what we're targeting now. And as I'm getting out of time, I need to finish with this last slide, which is we've been building up progressively this company successfully, and it is now time for strong cash flow coming up from the operations, and still maintaining a strong focus on our exploration team, as we believe that the next key project will come from our own discoveries. Thank you very much.